Hello and welcome to the start of a brand new series, a playthrough of The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. Since this is the first episode, I figured I'd go ahead and lay down some of the rules of the series, the way that it's going to go, and the mod list that I'm using. We'll start with the mod list. We'll go ahead and get that one cleared. The mod list I'm using is almost entirely just the Morrowind overhaul. It's a very comprehensive set of changes. I was looking at a whole bunch of mods for way longer than I should have been, and it just happened to be that when I looked at the overhaul, it had most of the mods that I was looking to use anyways, so I figured I would just go ahead and use it. Second thing, I'm using races are more fun to kind of give the races a little more variety and make them more true to the lore. I'm using birth signs are more fun to give, again, a few more abilities and also more true to the lore. But also I think I should say that I'm using the versions of those mods that give those abilities to the NPCs so they can all use their abilities as well. I'm not creating for myself an unfair advantage in any way, shape, or form. I'm using an encumbrance increaser. I'm using a speed increaser because I hate moving around so slowly. Getting from place to place is really boring, so I don't want to mess with it. Let's see, what else? I'm using the Welcome to the Arena mod. It is a mod that kind of awakens the arena from its sleep. If you've played Morrowind before, you know that the arena is used in a couple of quests, but is otherwise entirely dead. There's never anything going on there. So I think it's a much more realistic thing to have the arena be going along and doing its business even when you're not there. It makes fights happen in the arena that you can participate in, or you can bet on, or you can just watch. It just makes the arena in Vivec a more interesting place to be. And let's see what else. I'm using Galsia's character development, which is a mod that changes the leveling system of Morrowind. I don't like micromanaging my skills. I want to just play the game and not have to concentrate on spreadsheets and things like that to make myself have the best possible character. And I know I don't have to do that to actually play the game, but gosh, it sure does make you feel like you lost out when you don't max out your stats each level. So I've just got rid of that. I'm using that alternate mod instead. And then there is one more mod that I'm using, but it'll kind of ruin some of my plans for the character if I go ahead and tell you what it is now. So I'm going to leave that one off. And as soon as I actually start getting into it, I will let you know what mod it was that I put in. So guys, let's dive in.
They have taken you from the Imperial City's prison, first by carriage and now by boat. To the east, to Morrowind. Fear not, for I am watchful. You have been chosen.
Wake up. We're here. Why are you shaking? Are you okay? Wake up.
I've had to restart a couple of times, and it seems like if I'm recording when this starts, sometimes it just kind of freezes up and it takes a minute. So I will try to remember to edit this out.
Stand up. There you go. You were dreaming. What's your name?
So the other thing about the series that I want to tell you is I'm going to try to do it more like it's a role-playing thing, where I'm taking the identity of the character and going forward with the series. So in between some things, I'm going to interject my thoughts, and obviously I will try to preface it with out of character or in character as necessary, but most of the time I'm just going to be speaking from the perspective of the character that I'm playing, giving some of the thoughts that might be running through his head as he's going forward. So, bearing that in mind, let's go ahead and dive into character. As I stood there, staring at the Dunmer before me, hearing his question ring through my head, I thought about all of the things that had just passed through my mind as I was dreaming. Now, according to him, I was asleep, but those events that I saw seemed so realistic, something that I've never had happen before, and I'm quite sure that whatever it was that was speaking in my dream, I could only compare to a god. Coming back to reality, I thought, what is my name? It seems so unimportant based on what I just saw, but then it came to me.
Well, not even last night's storm could wake you. I heard them say we've reached Morrowind. I'm sure they'll let us go. Quiet. Here comes the guard.
This is where you get off. Come with me.
Followed the guard up and around.
Get yourself up on deck and let's keep this as civil as possible.
I was trying to figure out what it was that I was even on the prison boat for. I can't remember why I was in prison. It all seems so distant, even though it was only a few days ago.
This is where they want you. Head down to the dock and I'll show you to the census office.
You finally arrived, but our records don't show from where.
I thought that was an odd question, considering that he was looking right at me. I was obviously a Breton from High Rock.
Great. I'm sure you'll fit right in. Follow me up to the office and they'll finish your release.
As I stood, staring about the room at the two men that it contained, the guard sneered at me. I guess he didn't want me to think any thoughts of my own, but he didn't want me to interact with him at all either. I looked at the man standing before me, and all I could think is, he thinks he's really important. But I better get this over with.
Yes, we've been expecting you. You'll have to be recorded before you're officially released. There are a few ways we can do this, and the choice is yours.
Alright, so here's where Galsaya's character development comes into play. You don't pick skills the same way that you did before, and you don't really have to worry about which skills you pick as far as rapidly leveling, because level is sort of an arbitrary number now. It is still used for those leveling lists to make sure that you're fighting the types of enemies that you should be fighting for a character who has advanced as far as you have advanced, but really what you want to concentrate on is which stats do you want to improve. If you're really, really concerned about only raising intelligence and willpower, you want to play a strong mage, then you pick all the magic skills, because they will advance faster, easier, and to a higher level quicker, with no extra input, because they're your major and minor skills. Your class plays a heavy role in which skills are going to be able to be topped out rapidly, and that's really more of the concern there. So, instead of picking just skills that you would not normally want to use to level you because of how rapidly you use them, you can pick anything you want. And also, it'll help you develop those skills just a little bit better. Myself, I'm going for sort of a jack-of-all-trades thing because I want to have a lot of life in this series, so I'm going to pick a whole bunch of stats from a whole bunch of skills from a whole bunch of stats, so that way I can increase all of them pretty evenly across the board. It might make it a little harder for me in the early game, but oh well, it's not like I've ever turned down a challenge before. So I'm going to put this all together, and then I will show you what I picked out. Alright, so there you go. That's got a good mix of stats in it. I think each one of them is represented at least once. The Galsaias does kind of even out the distribution a little bit too. So most of the skills affect up to 4 stats, I believe, to varying degrees. Some of them affect them more than others. Some of them do only affect 3 or 2 even. I think there's a couple that only affect 2. So I've got a good mix of the different stats there. Plus, this is really the type of character that I like to play, as it turns out. Heavy armor is always my favorite. I don't like doing anything else, really. Armorer to help out with that. A good mix of magical skills there, so that I've got plenty of things that I can do. Marksman, because obviously the range stuff has always been good in all of the Elder Scrolls games. Alchemy, because it's fantastic. Conjuration to help me out with some of the magical stuff. And also bound weapons, armor, all good stuff there. Restoration to increase myself and give myself more health. Mercantile and Speechcraft just to make it a little bit better. One of the things that the overhaul does do is it fixes a lot of the skills that that were broken in the original Morrowind. So I really could, if I wanted to, go with a character that took Unarmored and see what I could do there, because Unarmored is fixed. It works properly the way that it should now. Also, Mercantile is fixed, where you will now actually get better prices as your Mercantile skill increases. Now, it did change some of the base prices that you get, so you're not going to be able to just go in there and just sell a couple of soul gems and then have 1,000,000 gold. But again, oh well, I don't mind a little bit of a challenge, especially if it's going to get better for me as I actually progress in the skills. It is something that I actually care about putting forward on my character. I want to advance, and I want to see that advancement. So, let's look at the rest of the conversation.
Very good. The letter that preceded you mentioned you were born under a certain sign. And what would that be?
I had to think about it for a minute. I could not remember when I was born at first, but listening to my own thoughts rage about in my head for a little bit, it suddenly came to me. I was born under the sign of the Atronach.
Interesting. Now, before I stamp these papers, make sure this information is correct. Show your papers to the captain when you exit to get your release fee.
Continue through to the next building and talk to Celis Gravius.
All too naturally, I started pulling things out of the containers that were around me. And then I thought, maybe one of the reasons that I was in prison was for thievery. I stood for a second staring at the weapon and the note that was underneath it, and I thought, nah, they don't need this. Oh wow, what a find, I thought to myself. A magic ring inside of a random barrel. That's a heck of a thing. I sure would like to have some more magic going for me right now. This man's cold eyes stared into me. I didn't know what his problem was, but he was who I had to talk to.
Your papers, please.
So, it turns out that I was released from prison by the Emperor himself. What a story. But, still, if somebody went to all of the trouble to spring me, then I had better see what they want. I was instructed to go to Balmora and find a man named Caius Cosedes at the South Wall Corner Club. So that seemed as good a place as any for me to go, seeing as I had never been to this place before, and really had no reason to be here. I spent a couple of moments looking around the room, just seeing if there was anything in here that would really be worth taking, and I spotted it. Underneath a wooden bowl over there is a key. I wonder what it could be too, but somebody had clearly hidden it for a reason. So, I thought about what I should do about that, ultimately decided that I would have to wait on that for just a little bit. That door's locked. Maybe that's what the key went to. I looked around the town of Seydanine, and I gotta say, I was not impressed.
I really don't have time for this, so make it quick.
But this little elf had started a conversation with me. Let's see what he wants. He says some Imperials took a ring from him. I wonder what ring he's talking about. Ah, this man clearly had the ownership of the ring that I had just found. I looked at the ring and thought about it for a second, and then ultimately decided that as a family heirloom of his, maybe I should give it back to him. And there we go. Have a good day, my elf friend. But he says that the master of the trade house would look more favorably upon me now, and that would be a good place for me to sell my ill-gotten goods. So, I headed over there.
Welcome. Care to talk?
This was the Altmer that he sent me to find, and he does receive me with a warm welcome. I thought, I wonder how much money he'll give me for all of the things that I just stole. $185 gold, a good start. I looked around the inn for a few of the other patrons. Nobody looked particularly friendly. But, might as well dive in and see what's going on. I'll start with this Nord. He wants me to recover some gold for him. Depending on where he wants it recovered from, I could help him with that. Ah, he wants me to find Fargoth's hiding place. Now that's the wood elf who helped me out in the courtyard to get into this trade house in a favorable position. But maybe I should at least hear him out. He tells me about some wealth that could be made off of this. I don't know. He did help me out, so it'd be a shame to betray him, but I really do have nothing right now. So any amount of gold, and especially if he hid that ring again, could really help me. And he tells me that the best vantage point on the town is the lighthouse in the south. The lighthouse would be a good place to watch from, so maybe I would see what I could find. Maybe I wouldn't do it. I was still a little conflicted about it.
Don't stand about. Don't stand about.
He had nothing particular to talk about, although he did offer training, though in nothing I had any interest in learning. Nothing from this Dunmer.
What do you want?
Any time now.
This man looks important. But somebody who has nothing but time to stand around in an inn is probably not. I do need directions to Balmora. And she also offers training. But she refused me. That must mean that she's holding it secret for somebody.
If you want something, now's the time to talk.
So, the road leads north out of town, and that's the way they tell me Balmora is. But maybe I should stick around for a few more minutes. See what else I could find. Always take a minute to look through all the flowers to see if there's anything that I can spot that I might need. You never know, as a budding alchemist, what you will in fact need. Some things are more important than others, but if nothing else, you can always sell what you don't want. Oh god, I'm being stalked by a mud crab. I better pull out that dagger I found. Clearly my skills had atrophied in prison. I used to not fear mud crabs. That sort of depressed me. I looked up at the lighthouse and I wondered if there was anything or anyone inside of it. Sure could use a lantern, though. Ah, there is a person. She offered to tell me about the town as so many others did, but nothing terribly important. I looked around at
Speak,
all
traveler.
the loot and wondered if there was any way I could distract her. Maybe I could just position her on the other side of a pole from me. Maybe that would work. She couldn't see me as I dipped my hands into the bags.
Filthy sweat! I have you! Now you die!
I had to get away from her, since she caught me filching. I had thought to try to knife her, but it didn't work. She was too nimble. Since I'm already up here, I might as well wait around and see if I can catch an image of Fargoth. And there I saw him, just as the Nord said, sneaking through town carrying a lantern. Obviously, he was not a very good sneak, if he thought to do so while carrying a light that made him very obvious during the dark. He put out his light as soon as he reached the little swampy area there, so perhaps that's where his hiding spot is. I should give that area a more thorough investigation. I probably can't make it back to the building if she's still angry at me, but I might as well give it a try. I could hear her still hustling around the bottom. Perhaps she is still angry. I should probably go out up here. There was a good tree that was tied up here. I can probably get down that. Oh, just a little hurt. Didn't quite make it. I think that's getting back to my skills being too rusty from prison. Oh well. Luckily, I do know some restoration magic. There we go. All better. Magic makes everything better. Fargoth has a decent little hiding place. I found the engraved ring of healing, as well as a good lockpick, and 300 gold. I took it, still feeling conflicted about it. And then I thought, perhaps I should cheat the cheater. They're charging this money for protection around this town, when they're not actually in it for that. They just want to shake down the locals. I'll just keep the money for myself. I thought about going ahead and taking off, but then perhaps I should wait until the day rises.
My patience is limited.
And then it was time for me to set off on my journey. Not knowing where I would eventually end up, only knowing my primary destination at the moment, the city of Balmora. Alright guys, and that's where we're going to have to go ahead and end this episode. I thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the first episode in the Morrowind series. I'm going to try to go through the whole game, including the expansions, assuming that my attention doesn't wane, as it is entirely likely to do. I don't have a very strong attention span, but hopefully I can make it through this whole series. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like. It'll make me feel like I really should go all the way through it if I see a whole bunch of likes on the Morrowind episodes, because that means that everybody who does look at my channel is enjoying it. If you liked it well enough that you want to see the next in the upcoming series, then please subscribe to the channel. I do a Minecraft series as well as this Morrowind series, so you can look at all of the different things that I'm up to, and maybe learn a little something or have some fun watching my videos. Anyways guys, I will see you next time.